Hi, I'm Dr. Laura Sims, and I'm the lead systems consultant here at Kammbium. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Book of Boundaries by Melissa Urban, which is an amazing resource that I have now recommended to all my colleagues, all my friends, because it's really game-changing in terms of how we think about boundaries, setting limits, communicating about what we feel comfortable with and what we will accept in terms of behavior and what we won't. So there are four main ideas that I really love from this book. The first one is that it's not someone else's job to guess my boundaries. It is my responsibility to set them. So I think a lot of times we think that people should just know what we feel comfortable with and what we don't, and what is asking too much and what is not. And so actually that's different from one person to the next. Some people would love to have family just stop by, and that really makes them feel like warm and connected, and other people would be horrified by the idea of family just stopping by unannounced and having to host them. And so you don't know what someone else is comfortable with. You can't possibly guess what I am okay with. And so it's my job to very clearly tell you. So that leads to point number two, which is that a boundary doesn't say what someone else can or can't do. It says what I will do. And so, for example, you wouldn't use a boundary. An inappropriate way to use a boundary would be to say, you can't talk to me like that. Instead, you would say, if you use that tone of voice with me, I will leave the room. Right? So it's the same idea, except that I am only able to control my own actions. I can't control what you do. And so framing it in terms of what I will accept and how I will behave really puts it back on me, as opposed to trying to control someone else. Point number three, people don't have to understand or really agree with my boundary in order to accept it. So a lot of times we feel like we need to explain or justify a boundary, whereas in fact, it's really enough to just state it and hold it. So someone doesn't have to understand why you're not comfortable with family just stopping by. You can just say, please call me ahead of time so that I can prepare, and that's when we will be able to receive you, as if I know ahead of time. Don't over explain, don't over justify. People don't need to know why in order to accept it. And actually, it'll come across much clearer and more effective if you just simply state it. And finally, in order to hold the boundary, sometimes you're going to have to enforce consequences. So this book is amazing because it gives you specific scripts for things that you can say in different scenarios at work, with your family, with your romantic partner. And so she lays out 3 levels of boundaries in each case. So the first one would be like a green light, and that's basically just where you state the boundary. And oftentimes that's enough. If people know you have a boundary there, they will respect it and accept it. Other times, even though you've stated it, they still continue to push that boundary. And so now you're not just going to state it. This is the yellow level. Now you don't just state it, you then identify what the consequence will be. So, if you talk to me like that with using that tone, I'm going to leave the room. So I've stated the consequence. Red is if they continue to push that boundary. If they continue to talk to you like that, then you have to enforce it and you have to actually leave the room. So again, like with children, only state a consequence that you're actually going to be willing to uphold. Otherwise, it loses all of its strength and weight, and people won't respect it as much. All right, so those are some of the main ideas that I absolutely loved from the Book of Boundaries. It's game-changing, it's life-changing. I highly recommend that you check it out, and happy boundary setting.